I've ridden 333 coasters all over the world, but only 38 of those have been wooden. So this isn't the best wooden coasters ever built, but it is my top 10. Right, I'm going to chuck the full list of all the wooden coasters I have ridden in the description down below. But number 10 is here in the UK, and it's a coaster that I had no expectations going in. Didn't think much of it. It's an older coaster, so I thought, how good can it be? It turns out pretty good, and that is the roller coaster at Great Yarmouth Pleasure Beach. Now, this is old school. It's got a brakeman on it, so that kind of means that your ride will vary depending on that person, the kind of weather conditions, the mood they're in, and how much they actually use that brake. I went on it numerous times. We had an ERT, and I did a back row ride with Ben from Ben and Holly, and yeah, that was absolutely mental. So starting to list off here in the UK. Right, number 9 goes over to the US, and again, this is one I personally hadn't heard a huge amount about before I got there. It's in Knobles, which I kept calling Nobles because, you know, silent K. Anyway, this one is Twister. Now, there are a couple of wooden coasters here, and this one doesn't seem to get the most attention, but I thought it was absolutely fantastic. This one is all about the laterals. You are just getting slammed into the side of that train. It's got this kind of weird double helix thing. It's just a bonkers ride, absolutely fantastic. And if you're ever out in that neck of the woods, I'd strongly recommend you visit this park because the park itself is fantastic and their woodies are excellent. I'm going to get some hate for this next one. Not because it's on my list, because it's quite far down my list. So hear me out till I explain this one. But number 8 for me is El Toro. Now, I went in with very high expectations on this one because for a lot of people, this is one of the best coasters they've been on. Certainly in terms of woodies. And I actually saved it for my 200th cred because I heard so many good things about it. The ride layout is fantastic, right? Intamin have done a fantastic job. It is relentless, it is fast-paced, it's got tons of airtime. So on the face of it, you think this thing is an absolute monster. The reason it's so far down the list for me, though, is the trains. And a key consideration when anyone rates these rides is comfort, right? And that's going to vary from person to person, right? I'm not the biggest chap, but I'm also not the smallest chap, and those trains were not comfortable for me at all, and I got stapled in multiple times. I gave it a few shots just to see, because, you know, I thought maybe I've just had a bad experience. And I went on with Mark, and he was like, oh, you know, don't put the bar all the way down, leave a bit of space. So I did that, and then the ride ops came round, and my row kept flagging, so they had to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until I was stapled, and it was not comfortable. So I really, really want to love this one, and maybe when I've lost a little bit of weight and get back out there, it may move up my list, but right now, sadly, it's number 8. Another ride that I heard very little about before we went was Grizzly at King's Dominion. And actually, you can't see much of this ride. One of those rides where it's very much hidden. It's very, very unusual because you enter it through the shop, and usually you exit through the shop, which you do on this ride as well. You have to go through the shop in both directions, and you can basically see the entrance and then the station and a little bit the lift hill. And after that, it's all hidden, and it is bonkers. I did it a few times, did it at night when it was dark. It's something else in the dark because you really can't see very much, and it is another one that is relentless. So definitely, if you're out at King's Dominion, you get yourself on Grizzly. Right, for number 6, we are coming back to the UK. There's not many UK entries. This is one of them, and that is Wickerman at Alton Towers. Now, for many, many years, John Wardley kept going on about how he wanted to get a wooden coaster in Towers, and for whatever reason, management thought wooden coasters are old, they're outdated, nobody wants them. And obviously, given the ratio I've said, I've done, what, 300 and odd coasters and only 38 have been wooden. Still to this day, there aren't as many wooden coasters as there are steel. However, they finally put one in with Big Bob in the Wicker Man, and I think it's fantastic. I really do enjoy it. I don't think I've ever had a bad ride on it. So in terms of UK coasters, this one's definitely up there for me at number 6. Right, quick thing before we hit the top 5. I know that I am very passionate about Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and obviously that is a park that has a number of wooden coasters. None of them have made it onto this list, and that's not because they are bad rides per se, just because the competition is pretty steep. Let's get into the top 5, shall we? Right, number 5 is over in Ireland, and that is the Cuchulainn. I've heard a few people say that they found this rather uncomfortable. Now, I rode this a few years ago. In fact, it was, believe it or not, the first date I took Carly on was over to Emerald Park. And we had an absolutely fantastic time on this ride. Front row, back row, in the rain, early day, late day. Like, we did it multiple times, and it was just bonkers. Fantastic. So some of this will definitely be because this ride kind of has a little bit of nostalgia for me in terms of it was where Carly and I started dating effectively, but I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I did go back 2 years ago with the kids to Year Experience Guide event, and unfortunately the ride was closed. So I do wonder if it has deteriorated in the last few years, or if I just really enjoyed it and others don't, because, you know, it's all about personal opinion. But for me, this one sits at number 5. Right, for number 4, we are going to head over to the Netherlands. And this is one that, as I'm thinking about this, I've already got the theme tune stuck in my head. So over at Efteling, they have a set of dueling wooden coasters known as Joris and de Draak. They've got the fire and they've got water, and they are both absolutely fantastic. Definitely one of my favourites. Lap this thing when I can. You know, if it's not got a massive queue, I'll just go around it again and again and again. And it is absolutely bonkers. So yeah, to get yourself over to Efteling. Right, another European coaster that I hadn't heard much about before I went is Balder, or Balder, not sure how you pronounce that one, over in Liseberg. Again, this thing was absolutely fantastic. Now, the thing that surprised me about this one is, like, we did it at first, middle of the train, I think it was, and the ejector airtime on that thing is absolutely crazy. Like, I thoroughly enjoy when you've got that little bit of space between you and the back. Like, there may be some people that want to be stapled in and feel secure. I think Carly's one of those. I am not. I like a little bit of a gap so that I'm going to get chucked out of my seat. Still safe, like I'm not enough that I can actually leave the vehicle. And this thing definitely delivers. It absolutely throws you around. I did front row, I did back row, and I fully expected back row to be where it's at, because typically on these things, the back row gets absolutely whipped over, you know, the last thing, and whew. I personally found way more airtime in the front of this coaster than I did at the back. It's not to say the back row isn't good, but for me, front row was where it is at. So definitely a park I need to get back to because I missed a few attractions, but Balder over in Liseberg is fantastic. Right, so that leaves 2 spots left. And in at number 2 is a coaster going back over to the US again, and back over to Knoebels, in fact. It's a coaster. Now, we'd heard good things about this from Mark before we arrived at the ERT, and that is Phoenix. Now, this coaster has been relocated from somewhere else, which, you know, doesn't typically happen with wooden coasters. It's a lot more expensive to move a wooden coaster than a steel coaster. But this thing, I mean, I know I just said I like getting ejector when I went on Balder. I was pretty much standing up for huge sections of this coaster. It is absolutely hilarious. So much fun. Again, there's definitely going to be some of this that is to do with the fact that we were there on a kind of enthusiast group. There was, what, 50 of us? However many there was, 60, can't remember. Just absolutely lapping this thing for an hour before the park opened. So, you know, there was the whole atmosphere that, you know, you're around kind of like-minded people and friends and stuff. It was absolutely brilliant, but I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to going back over there next year and getting back on it, taking Carly on it, because she absolutely loves wooden coasters, and I guarantee she'll fall in love with this one. Right, so that leaves my number 1 spot then, and again, I'm going to go back over to Europe, and this time I'm going to head to Germany and go into Europa Park for Wodan. Absolutely loved that thing. That first kind of drop, you kind of go up there, and you think, oh yeah, okay, so then it goes around the corner and then it just drops, and it is relentless. So much fun, the fly through in the station and etc. It's just fantastic. And of course, some of you may have seen I've started doing the kind of nostril cam. Yeah, there's a nostril cam from this one as well, so make sure you check that out. But yeah, Wodan definitely for me at the moment is my number 1 wooden coaster. I'm not sure if I'm going to get on any or many new wooden coasters this year. I think this year is going to be predominantly UK focused for me, with a big trip to Florida later in the year. Anyway, I'd love to know your top 10. Again, I'm sure you've ridden coasters, I haven't, so your list will probably look quite different to mine. Let me know in the comments down below. As always, I've been Chris, you've been watching Coaster Dad, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios!